Suffice it to know that I work for the government, and I'm here to help. On your table is a little pamphlet like this. I put it there only because it puts in context where we are coming from with this initiative. I'm the director in a regional office of the Regional Development Branch of Finance and Enterprise, which is all code word for economic development. We work with 15 communities in the very southwest corner of the province. If you take a look back in the southwest corner of the room, you'll see what we look like down there. One of the key drivers in our region, of course, is tourism development. We include Waterton National Park, and of course we're attached to Glacier Park. So one day, National Geographic noticed that this was a pretty special part of the world for a lot of reasons. And we suddenly discovered that they had determined that we were a significant geotourism region. Waterton Glacier International Peace Park and the surrounding communities. Wow, that sounded really pretty exciting. What do you do when somebody tells you something like that? Well, first of all, we connected with some of our folks in Montana, and they were going, wow, this is quite an opportunity. What do we do with this? So we looked first at what we had before us. National Geographic defines geotourism as tourism that sustains, enhances the geographical character of a place, which includes environment, culture, aesthetics, heritage, and the well-being of its residents. People are important in this equation as well. How this came about is that National Geographic for decades has been sending people to the most beautiful places in the world. And as a result of that, in many cases, the result has been the degradation of those places. Skyscrapers in front of the Sphinx, garbage on the ground at Machu Picchu, and all those kinds of things. So I think as an organization, they felt some responsibility to raise awareness that when you send somebody to a special place, we need to work hard to keep the character of that place so that it remains the attraction that it started to be. So, looking at Waterton Glacier International Peace Park, which is, by the way, the world's very first international peace park, established in 1932. And I think National Geographic may have been thinking a little strategically as well, because it was the 75th anniversary of the International Peace Park in 1975. So to begin working with the opportunity, there was a region-wide consultation. What's special about your place? We solicited nominations from around Montana, British Columbia, and our corner of Alberta, saying, what is special about your place? We also included grade 5 students, thinking that they were old enough to be kind of little adults, but they were also like not up to being 14 or 15 years old yet. So, you know, if we did anything with them, it would still be fun. They'd have the wonderment of children in their eyes. So what we did was they submitted essays, articles, and we chose 5 students from Alberta, 4 from British Columbia, 9 from Montana, and we took them to the Glacier Institute for an interpretive overnight event. Now you see 5 little children standing there on top of a rock. Seeing that out of context, I'm sure there's some occupational health and safety thing we shouldn't have done there. But their parents were along with us, which was the very cool thing, is that their families also came along and learned about the initiative. We live half an hour north of the park, and a lot of those families had no idea of the richness of the stories and the culture that was there. So as a result of these regional consultations, out of this was developed the map guide. We provided all the information from the region, National Geographic vetted it, and what you have, there's an example on the table and there's ones that you can take with you, but what they represent is just 50 of the 800 nominations of special places that were made. So we realized we needed to do a little bit more than that, so we also developed a website, and you will want to look there. This is an ever-growing, interactive social website that is fueled by a strong network of field editors, and anybody can become a field editor. If you've got a beautiful place to talk about that should go on there, you're welcome to go in and add to it. As we work through this, we are customizing the definition of what geotourism means to us. And I think the strong part of what we are doing is the amazing community and tourism operator engagement that we have in this process. This whole thing is operating at this moment with a handshake. We have friends in Montana, we have friends in BC, we have people in our organizations, and it's kind of like, who's interested in this? Come to the table and let's do something. You'll notice in the bottom, toward the bottom right-hand corner on this website, there is a little button that says KSPS. That, if you click on that, you get a little 12-minute mini documentary that tells the story of the formation of the International Peace Park. PBS came to us and said, hey, we'd like to do this, and for a few dollars that we each threw in, and everybody's volunteer resources, there's a very cool little documentary that you might want to look at. Okay, so what are we learning from each other as we go along? Whoops. How do I go back to the previous one there? I just don't want to miss Dylan there. Okay, that should do it there. Okay. Every initiative has a champion, and we in our hearts see the leader of this initiative being a gentleman named Steve Thompson, who worked for the National Parks Conservation Association. And he had a portion of his job attributed to this. He was very passionate about it. And the rest of us are all working on this initiative off the corners of our desk. But we've come to the point where we really realize that every initiative needs somebody to be doing the legwork. We can steer things, we can come up with the great ideas, but if there's nobody to do the implementation, it doesn't go anywhere. So we have recently hired a young man, Dylan Boyle, who's a graduate of the University of Montana, has a master's degree specifically in geotourism, has developed a geotourism handbook, and you can write down the address there that will take you to the handbook. So we're really seeing that education is a really next important part of this initiative. We have a general idea what it means to us, but our businesses need to know, okay, what do I do next to develop this opportunity to be a geotourism business? So hopefully Dylan will be somebody who works as a really good resource for us, and he'll be doing workshops and various things. We had a conference in Waterton not long ago, and Jonathan Tortolo from the National Geographic Society for Sustainable Destinations came and spoke at the conference. And there were a couple of things that he said that resonated with me. And part of what we need to help our operators do is identify where they fit into the scheme of things, that there are different kinds of tourism, and that does depend on place. And Jonathan talked about touring, rest and recreation, and entertainment as types of activities. The touring is the diffused impact. I think it falls into the area of being the geotouristic kind of business. R&R is the coastal resorts. All you need is a beach and a drink in your hand, and that could be anywhere. It could be Cuba, it could be St. Martin, it could be Florida. The point is to just have the place where you can relax. And then we move into areas that are pure entertainment. There you're looking at Las Vegas would probably be the best example of that. There's nothing in the desert, so you build something, and there it is. things that are built specifically, theme parks, outlet malls, amusement parks, things that are built for entertainment. Fine. So we've got all these kinds of things and they each have their place. But when we look at tourism and sustainability, there are some threats to tourism. We've all looked at the overcrowding thing. There is such a thing as having too much business. I can remember once standing at a luau in Hawaii in line with 600 people and a styrofoam plate in my hand, and I'm thinking perhaps there's some authenticity missing in this experience. So to remain sustainable, what we do need to do is maintain the authenticity of what we've got. But geotourism takes it one step further. Not only do we sustain the place, we celebrate it. The character of place is the focal point for what we do. There's a lot of research done on the geo-traveler, baseline information on their characteristics, what they're looking for, how many of them there are, and it's a good market. It's something that we want to look at. This kind of traveler is generally a little more educated, a little more affluent, wants to travel to a place to learn about it. And this kind of traveler is quite happy to leave things the way they found it, come and enjoy it, not intrude on it or wreck it or go away. When we were having one of our planning sessions at one time, one of our colleagues at the table said, okay, the high value, low impact visitor. He said it's kind of like catch, fleece, and release. Well, whatever. Okay. Tortolo talked about the geotourism virtuous circle, that place-based tourism creates community benefit and then motivates people to protect the environment. If that circle is broken, if the benefits look too selective or aren't apparent, if there are obstacles to protection, then leakage, irresponsible business practices, you're going to have some problems in keeping that sustainable. So far, we've had a map guide, a website, we've done the KSPS mini documentary, we have developed a Geotourism Council, which is a broad base of tourism operators in all of our jurisdictions. There's a steering committee of 2 people each from BC, Montana, and Alberta who kind of keep this on a direction. There is a strategic business plan and baseline visitor and market research. I mentioned Dylan, our geotourism coordinator, and the handbook that he has developed. We've also, in Alberta, done an opportunity identification gap analysis report. Thank you, Tourism, Parks and Recreation, for helping us with that. And it's really identified some exciting directions as to where we can go. And there is also, this last summer, there was a transboundary promotional campaign. Travel Alberta and Montana Tourism all worked together. So our next steps, as I mentioned, will be to implement more outreach for all our regions. Operator education is really key to this whole thing and to continue strengthening where we're going. Interesting thing in southern Alberta, we have wind turbines, and suddenly we have one industry bumping up against another industry. Because of this initiative, I believe there are some very good conversations happening at municipal government tables. Pincher Creek region is the birthplace of the wind industry in Canada, so our legislators and municipal government have had to do some leading edge things in figuring out how to do land use so that we don't wreck what we have. And in fact, it turns out that our wind farms are just one more tourist attraction. So it can all work together, and I think as leaders in the tourism industry, we just have to keep the conversations going, and that would be our job. The end.